The Late News Hour
on 5 Live.
As Louise Cooper, and listening to that is Finn Travers-Smith from the website Move Your Money, who campaigned for a fairer banking system. Finn, good evening.
Good evening, Sam.
So is it fair that HSBC, who didn't need to be bailed out, pay more than banks that did?
Well, I think it's an interesting question about fairness, and the bank levy is certainly a blunt instrument which regulators have used. That said, there are numerous unfair advantages that HSBC does receive as a direct result of being in the UK as well. So I think if we're going to talk about fairness, then we need to look at those as well. You know, the UK, London is a global financial centre for a number of reasons, including its time zone, language and access to markets. So the idea that the bank levy is the be-all and end-all is simply not true. But even broader than that is the too big to fail subsidy that banks the size of HSBC receive. So, for example, because the bank is so large and systemically important, investors know that the government will step in, as it did in 2008, to bail out those banks, and therefore those banks can borrow from capital markets at a greatly reduced rate. Now, that was worth $4.7 billion to HSBC in 2012 alone, and research shows that too big to fail subsidy is growing every year. So whilst we're talking in the magnitude of hundreds of millions for the bank levy, we're talking 10 or much greater times that for too big to fail subsidy, and that's not to mention the softer things that I previously alluded to, including the time zone, language and market access.
Well, Louise is saying that that's not enough, that they're going to go.
Well, that may be the case, but we need to ask ourselves, what would HQ relocation be such a bad thing? I mean, firstly, they haven't announced that they're leaving yet, so, and as you said yourself, this is a very strategically timed announcement with the Mansion House speech tomorrow, and our position is very much that this is a tactic to extract more regulatory concessions, which it looks like George Osborne is going to sort of grant. I mean,
you think he will?
Yeah, well, I do so, because I mean the Treasury has already sort of made noises towards lowering the bank levy, and ultimately HSBC have delayed. They were originally going to give their decision on the HQ location today. Instead, they've delayed it to the end of the year, and they can get more sort of political leverage out of that. And as I say, it seems like they're already doing that. But the broader question is whether the relocation of their HQ would really be so bad. And when you look at the jobs question on the HQ relocation, it's only about 250 jobs that would be lost, which is obviously damaging, but not as damaging as the retail job losses that we've seen today of around 8,000. But more importantly, by being HQ'd in the UK, the Bank of England is liable as what's called the lender of last resort, which means that if HSBC were to fail, then the taxpayer would step in and bail it out. By relocating to Asia, we are no longer liable to bail out HSBC if it were to fall in trouble. Now, you can say HSBC won't fall in trouble, but RBS was the biggest bank in the world, or the second biggest bank in the world in 2008. No one saw it coming, and it did. And there's some very strong indicators that there hasn't been enough reform of the financial sector. So ultimately, if the bank were to relocate its HQ but maintain its retail operation, then that wouldn't actually be such a bad thing. And so we shouldn't let HSBC use that for regulatory concession, which is designed to protect us as a society and as individuals.
OK, Finn, thank you very much. That's Finn Travers-Smith from the website Move Your Money.